Photos of Bassem Tamimi of Nabi Saleh on the West Bank, the difference before and after his imprisonment.
They discussed it amongst themselves and they said, we're going to sit on the lawn, we're going to be silent, we're not breaking any rules, and so we are willing to be peaceably arrested to make this point.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to the Struggle Video News. As we know, Israel loves flashy commando operations. Months ago, 100 Israeli captives were brought back from Gaza by negotiations with Hamas, which bargains for all the Palestinian military resistance in Gaza. But that was not to Israel's liking. So they sent commandos into a crowded central Gaza refugee camp. 4 Israelis were rescued at a hideous cost. 64 Palestinian children killed, 200 others killed, 700 injured in an area where the wrecked hospitals can only provide the very basics. What about Palestinians held in Israeli prisons? Al Jazeera reports that before October 7th, there were 5,200 in Israeli prisons. The New York Times reported in late March of this year, there were 9,000 Palestinian prisoners. So Israel has arrested, or shall we say abducted, 4,000 West Bank Palestinians, many multiples of the people taken captive by Hamas and other forces. Why? Bargaining chips? Revenge? Provocations? I'm sure that living conditions for the 4 Israeli captives were difficult and at times terrifying, but they were said to be in good condition by the Israeli authorities when they were rescued, and in truth, they looked it. Compare that to conditions of Palestinians in Israeli prisons. The Palestinian ambassador to the United Kingdom issued this tweet showing the difference between photos of Bassem Tamimi of Nabi Saleh on the West Bank, the difference before and after his imprisonment. Tamimi endured 8 months in Israeli jails. He's gaunt from lack of food, and his hair is considerably grayer because of his ordeal. He had been scooped up in late October, never given a trial, never even charged. After 8 months, he was just let go. The Israelis call this imprisonment by a cute name, administrative detention. As of May, there were 3,400 Palestinians in administrative detention. Tamimi was a vigorous man. We recorded him when he spoke in New York City in 2016. Here's part of his talk.
The video there, it's my family. The last one is my brother-in-law. They killed him in front of my family, and you saw my wife was filming when they killed her brother in front of her. But because we believe that our weapon is the camera, she stay patient and continue filming to show the world our suffering and to show the reality and the terrorist of our enemy. Since last Ramadan, when they, not this Ramadan, the Ramadan before, when they attack Gaza, they use a new policy or a new strategy. They bring snipers with 22 millimeters bullets, and they start shooting the youth on their left leg, and it's cut the nerve for the foot, which make the foot paralyzed. 70% had the foot paralyzed. One of them he had burnout son, if you had burnout. One In Nabi Saleh, just in Nabi Saleh, you have 22 person had shot in their legs. Skunk water is a chemical water with a bad smell, which remain on the ground for 2 weeks. You can't smell it. It's kind of like the skunk. And they use it every Friday. They shoot it inside the houses, which make more furniture loses, and use this, and so a lot of people burn their furniture. It's make cancer when it comes to the body, a lot of times. For example, they shoot it on my wife 1 week. It's remain in her hair for 2 or 3 weeks. You can't smell it. This is
Now you see what Israel has reduced him to after 8 months of prison. By the way, Bassem Tamimi is the father of Ahed Tamimi, who, while a teenager, received world attention for slapping an Israeli soldier. Activists met with Russell last year to talk about the Israeli investments. He claimed he has an exclusive responsibility to make money for the pension funds, only limited by relevant Connecticut and U.S. law. That didn't stop a prior treasurer from dumping Russian investments after Putin invaded Ukraine in 2022. And it doesn't stop Treasurer Russell from speaking out to the media and calling for a special session to pass laws to bar investments in Israel, at minimum to stop investments in Israeli weapons companies like Elbit, Israel's biggest weapons company. Activists met with Russell last year to talk about the Israeli investments. He claimed he has an exclusive responsibility to make money for the pension funds, only limited by relevant Connecticut and U.S. law. That didn't stop a prior treasurer from dumping Russian investments after Putin invaded Ukraine in 2022. And it doesn't stop Treasurer Russell from speaking out to the media and calling for a special session to pass laws to bar investments in Israel, at minimum to stop investments in Israeli weapons companies like Elbit, Israel's biggest weapons company. This is a protest in Canada against a bank in that country that had big investments in Elbit. The video came from Al Mayadeen English on YouTube. Now more of our coverage of our Courage Award, that ceremony that took place in late May. You recall it was a tribute to Palestinian journalists. The speaker is Mara Horowitz of the Jewish Voice for Peace Westchester, who is also an assistant professor at SUNY in Purchase, New York. At that college, she uses ancient history and archaeology to teach a global studies program. She also kept watch over students during their encampment for Palestine at the college in Purchase.
I would like to talk to you today about the courage that's taking place on our college campuses today in solidarity with people who are suffering genocide. And I wish I could say it was just the one genocide, but honestly there are a number of places in the world where this is also happening, and it usually finds its way back to the United States and its weapons companies and its imperialist goals and its economic, global economic goals, and not just us, but our allies as well. As Stan mentioned, I trained as an archaeologist, Near Eastern archaeology. I could give you a potted history of that strip of land that we're talking about going back over 100,000 years. So my specialty is the Bronze Age, 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. And for a long time, you know, I trained in this very sort of blinkered community of focusing on what was happening in the ancient world. But living and working in different parts of the region over the last 25 years, I came to realize that the modern day needed more. It needed more from me. There was more that I could do as a Jewish American. There was more that I could do as an educator. There was more that I could do, and so I moved to help build the global studies curriculum and to work with Jewish Voice for Peace. So the Purchase College is a small liberal arts college. It's one of many. There are 5 in Westchester alone. And as part of the State University of New York system, we get a lot of students from the region, New York City, and it has been fascinating these past 10 years to meet this young generation that is so unlike my generation in so many ways. The way that they grew up, the way that they see the world, the way that they have their opinions and their keen eye for nonsense that's being fed to them, and their ability to go around corporate censored news and yet still not be too jaded to give up. Not like my generation, right? I'm a young ex, and we looked at the world and said, well, you know, they're telling us we can't do anything, so what could we do? No, these young people are so inspired, and they're following what's going on, and they are following it through online streaming content. They're able to connect directly to journalists in Palestine, and it didn't start on October 7th. Nothing started on October 7th, of course. My family has a long history of it. Foundational ties in my family. It's over 100 years of plotting and working and moving to take that land, to steal it by any means necessary. And it really is just that simple. We want it, we'll do anything to take it. And that is genocide, it's ethnic cleansing, it's war crimes, it's all of those things. So my students, I've had long conversations with them. We have some of my courses where we go into detail. I teach courses like migration, transportation, health and human rights, the problems that we have globally and how to solve them. So I already had, I know the students in the Political Science Club and those who've been particularly active on the topic of freedom for Palestine. I've been working for freedom of Palestine for over 25 years. Was radicalized from my upbringing as a grad student at Columbia University and went on from there. So as of October of this year, our students got together. They actually formed new student groups. The old ones were not sufficient. They formed a new group called Purchase Jews for Palestine. They seceded from Hillel, which had been telling them stories that were clearly not true, and they knew it. So they created their own group. We also have a group called Raising the Consciousness Purchase, which is devoted to a lot of issues like over-policing on the campus, but also the urgency of this in this moment. And every day that's gone by and every death toll that's been published, the urgency has built and built. And the students have started out with protests and sit-ins and requests to meet with administration. And as with most schools, I think possibly all schools, there was this reply of, well, we're busy, there are things to do, right? What can we do about that? But most especially, no, our money is very safe with the weapons companies. We get good payments from our investments, and we don't want to mess with that. Underneath the surface, it's the money. And colleges have endowments. The endowments are managed by financial specialists, and those people have something called a fiduciary responsibility, meaning their job is to make as much money as they can. And if you don't put ethical limits on them, if you don't put a structure in place saying, no, we don't want to invest in genocide, no matter how profitable it is, then that is what they will do, and that is what they have done. And the system is so enormously wrapped up in exploitation that it is hard to find a place to invest your money that isn't somehow complicit in some kind of exploitational behavior, whether it's ecocide, genocide, any kind of destruction is fine as long as it's bringing in substantial reward and value for shareholders. So my students got together and they, inspired by the 10 protests around the country, they decided, along with students at a total of 5 SUNY colleges, we have 64 colleges in the SUNY system, that 2 Thursdays ago they were going to go out on the lawn, put up some tents and signs, and stay there until the administration agreed to talk to them about their goals. And they were met, and I was with them, as were a number of lawyers from Jewish Voice for Peace as advisors. The word had clearly gone around, because not only was there a police helicopter circling overhead before they ever did anything, right? There were also county police and a police drone observing. And as soon as the students ran out, they were trying to avoid the police presence, they ran out on the lawn and started putting up their tents, right? Tents on the lawn. Militarized police presence. It was as if they were expecting a foreign army invading. And their own students. So there was a negotiation. I got permission for them to put the tents down and sit on them, and then they could continue their protest. But that ran out at 10 p.m. and they were ordered to get off the lawn, which is not a rule, and they refused. About 70 students, 80 students volunteered to be arrested by the enormous presence of county police that had by then been called in with large buses to take them away. And they discussed it amongst themselves, and they said, we're going to sit on the lawn, we're going to be silent, we're not breaking any rules, and so we are willing to be peaceably arrested to make this point. They were not peaceably arrested. They were dragged, they were thrown, they had their necks kneeled on, they were injured, their private property, including their bags with their laptops and their medications, were thrown in the dumpster. And in the chaos that ensued once the police began to attack, 6 of my faculty colleagues were also arrested. We were there as, monitors and mediators. So in total, 70 people were taken away, I think 68 people were charged, and many more repulsed also at Binghamton, Stony Brook, and Buffalo, 5 SUNY campuses that went up. And by dawn, they had all been released, charged with trespassing, sitting on the lawn, and they ran right back out on that lawn and planted themselves with twice as many students and refused to move. So throughout Friday, negotiations with the school went nowhere. Saturday afternoon, I was asked to go back down and try to create a conduit between the negotiations. That fell through. I ended up staying out all night, Saturday night, just to keep an eye on things. Sunday morning, the campus police dashed in and seized everything and ran off with the tents. Even that didn't discourage the students because it was pouring rain. So they went inside, and we, the faculty, stepped in and organized an executive session. We talked to them and organized meetings with administration, and we came together and finally found a way to agree to the basic demands, which were to create committees for disclosure. Where is the money, right? This is a public institution, and it is a nonprofit institution. It should be public. where is the money, and who are the investments that we have our money with, who are the contractors. It's an enormous task, but to get it started in return for canceling the disciplinary charges and the political charges. And these students, throughout this entire ordeal, right, some of them ended up with concussions and sprained wrists, and one, the police just left at the hospital because they had compressed her, and she had a stomach condition, so she couldn't stop vomiting, so they just left her there, and we had her picked up by a JVP member, taken in overnight, and then returned the next day. And I was so amazed at their collective determination, right? These are students from every part of our society, every race, every culture, every gender. They had all come together for this purpose, right? And they clearly stated their demands. They clearly stated that they would not be moved because the urgency of every day, what rolls in every day, and our news media, mostly too cowardly or too bought off to show what's truly happening. The cowardly New York Times, which recently someone said, you know, somehow the New York Times manages to be the best and worst newspaper in the world. They will publish something like the 1619 Project, and then they will capitulate to our government's demand that they sell the invasion of Iraq. And they've certainly been all over the place covering this latest outbreak of conflict. And they have occasionally published exposés on what's been going on, but in this case fallen really, sadly, very short, and also campus protests being ignored by the media or painted as outside agitators. A lot of us who were there can tell the story. So I wanted to share that with you.
Can we go right to the victory?
Yes, yes. So we do have an agreement, and looking forward, it's going to be hard work. Everybody in the schools community has come together. And of course, New York State has an executive order that constrains what can be done relative to divesting from or boycotting Israel, but we are working around that by looking at all purveyors of profit for genocide, all the merchants of death. We are demanding better. We're doing it already for environment and sustainability. It should already be the case that we don't invest in genocide, but unfortunately, we absolutely do, and it's on all of us to change that. So I just wanted to share that with you, and it's an ongoing situation, ongoing quest, and I'm so incredibly proud of this generation all around the country facing this violent, militarized repression. And nothing says Zionism is an integral part of U.S. Imperialistic and economic policy than the police defending it with every violent means at their command. This has changed higher education in the United States forever, and there will be no going back. The status quo has been shattered, and it's not over by a long shot. But it's really quite amazing to see. I'm very privileged to be with them.
And from a protest for Palestine in Hartford, Connecticut.
Why have we been coming out week after week? Is yelling into the air freeing Palestine? Our screams aren't stopping the missiles, but I'll tell you what they are doing. When we have media outlets come out and record us, when we have a brother come from Gaza, fresh from Gaza 8 months after it started, and see this big of a crowd on 2 days' notice, that means something. Each and every person here should be proud of themselves for finding the time on a random Wednesday with barely any notice at all to come out in these kinds of numbers. So we want to thank you for that. But this is just one protest. A single protest alone doesn't do anything. But when we have protests every week, when we have protests every month, in every state, in every country around the world, it makes an impact. So if you're sitting at home and you see a flyer for a protest and you say, it's just another protest, so what if I miss it? That's not an excuse. If you can come, then you should show up. There is no excuse. So thank you to everyone that's been showing up. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
And the blockade break the siege!
And the blockade break the siege!
Gaza will be free!
Gaza will be free!
Gaza is being bombed and is suffering famine, but it's not the only place suffering genocide. Here are two videos about Sudan from Amnesty International. That's our program for today. See us next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller for the Struggle Video News.